In this video, you're going to learn how to get started on your linear regression, a study of the stock market project, and how to complete part 1. Once you've read through the handout given to you in class, you're going to get started on step 1 of part 1. Step 1 has you choose a company you want to investigate stock data for. You should find a company that's been around and traded on the stock market for at least 20 years. If for any reason there are any issues with this, you can see me and we can find out another way, but there should be plenty of companies that have been traded for at least 20 years. So there are several different places where we can find stock data, but one easy one is Yahoo Finance. So you can either search for Yahoo Finance or go to finance.yahoo.com. Once you're here, you can browse through this website, but the fastest way to do this is to go over here to Market Data. And if there's a company you already know that you want to do, you can type in that name of the company up here in the browser in the search bar, and then click the Search Finance button. If you don't know what company you want to do, I would suggest going down here to the list of market movers. Now, these are the ones who've had the most activity or the largest percent gain or the largest percent loss over the past day. But it's just a good list if you click on the More button of companies that are traded on the stock market. So this right here has the first 10 that's had the most activity, but we can keep adding more and get a good list of companies that you can choose for this project. Now, I am going to start off with Bank of America for this example. Once you're on the page for the company that you want to collect your stock data on, you want to go over here to the side and go to Historical Prices. Once we click on Historical Prices, you can see the start date of when this website has data collected for. So for Bank of America, they have data collected starting May 29th of 1986. For the purposes of this example, this is fine. You all are looking for a company that hopefully has started by 1985, and like I said, if there are any issues finding this, you can talk to me and we can figure something out. So this has right here daily closing prices, open, high, low, and closing prices, but we only want monthly because we're going to be looking for January of each year to collect our data. So we're going to click Get Prices after I select monthly. And now I am going to record the January close price for each year. So now that we've found our historical prices, it's time to get our Excel sheet set up. So you want to go ahead and open up an Excel document. And we want to label the first 5 column headings that are listed for you on page 2 of the handout. So we have year since 1986 in my case, because my first year is going to be in 1986, the actual stock price, and then here in a little bit we'll get to the predicted price and then our residuals. So now that I have my historical data in my Excel document set up, I'm going to go ahead and type in my years, the year since 1986, and then the stock price that's there. So I am starting out with 1986, so I'm going to type that year in, 1987, and then if you select both of these, you can drag down and it'll fill it in for you. So I can drag it down until that little bar down there says 2015. Now 1986 is 0 years away from 1986, 1987 is 1 year away, and I can do the same thing. It'll fill it in all the way for you. Now I'm going to take just a minute and flip back and forth between my prices on this website in my Excel document and fill in my stock prices. Okay, now I have all of my stock prices filled in for each year, and I just want to remind you quickly to do not forget to save frequently. You're going to need to keep track of this for a while, so either save it on a flash drive or to your drive on the school computers. So now that I have all of my data in, we are on to step 3 of part 1, which is to create an appropriate display to show the trend in your stock over the past several years. So we are going to use years since 1986 and the stock price to create our appropriate display, which in this case is a scatter plot. Now, your computer and your screen might look a little bit different than mine depending on which year of Microsoft Excel you're using, but it shall be fairly similar. So we're going to go up here to the Insert tab, and we want to insert a chart. Now, we are going to use the XY scatter or bubble chart, and we want to go ahead and use this one. Now, it will autofill something for you automatically, but we know that this is not done yet. We want to go ahead and add a title that is more appropriate. So I'm going to change mine to Bank of America stock price. And we want to go ahead and add our X and Y axis titles. Now for mine, I'm going to go to Add Chart Element, Axis Titles. My horizontal is going to be years years since 1986. And then my y-axis title is going to be our stock price. And make sure you let everyone know that it's in dollars as well. So now our graph area is looking a little bit better. And we can go ahead and answer question 1 on the question part of your project handout. Okay, now that we have our display done, we want to go on to step 4 and create our linear model. The nice thing about using Excel is that Excel will do all of this for you. So under Chart Tools, I again am going to go to Add a Chart Element, and I'm going to go ahead and insert a linear trend line. Now, you can tell that my scatter plot is very curved, and the trend line that it gives me is a negative trend line. So what I want to do is I want to format it so that it will give me the equation on it. So I want to format my trend line, I want to display the equation on the chart, and I'm going to go ahead and display the R squared on the chart as well. Now let me see if I can make this a bit bigger font so we can see it. So now we have our equation of our trend line and our R squared. So once you have this, once you have your linear model, you can go ahead and answer questions 2, 3, and 4. We are now on the 5th step of part 1, which is our last step that we have for this part. And we want to create a column for predicted prices as predicted by our linear model that we just made. And then we want to create a column for the residuals as well. So my linear model that I have here is negative 0.9137x plus 56.1. So again, for our predicted price column, we're going to let Excel do all of the calculations for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the equal sign into row 2, column D, and so that way Excel knows that we're going to do a formula here. So I'm going to type in my slope, which in this case is negative 0.9137, and we're going to multiply that by our input, our x value. Now our x value here in this case is years since 1986. So I'm going to click on this cell right here so that it knows that it goes with that one. And then we can type in plus 56.163. Now once I hit enter, it autofills it in for me. And again, I can do the same thing where once the corner turns into that plus sign, I can drag it all the way down and it'll copy my formula into each of these cells. So now I have, according to my linear model, the predicted price for each of my x values. So I can compare the actual price to its predicted price. So now we want to find our residual in the 5th column. If you think back to a couple chapters ago, you'll remember that a residual is our data minus our model. So we're going to type in again equals so that it knows we want a formula. And we're going to put our data price, which is in this case 55.5. And we're going to subtract our model, which is in column D, in this case 56.163. Again, once I hit enter, it gives me my residual. And now I can drop this, drag it all the way down again, and it'll apply that formula to each of my rows. Now the very last thing that we want to do is create our residuals plot. For this residual plot, we want to compare again on the x-axis, years since 1986, and on the y, the residuals. So I'm going to go ahead and select my entire column for years since 1986, and then I'm going to press down the control button and select the residual column. Now, just like we did last time, I can go to insert, and then we want another scatter plot, and this time I have our residuals. So I can go ahead and just make that a little bit bigger, and we want to do the exact same thing. I'm going to change my title to residuals of stock prices for Bank of America. And I want to also insert in some axis titles. So for the horizontal, again, we have years since 1986. And on the vertical or the y-axis, we have our residuals. Once your residual plot is done, you can go ahead and answer question number 5. We will go on to part 2 here together soon, but for now, all you need to have is part 1 and questions 1 through 5 completed.